welcome back to another episode of Hand Tool Rescue. Today is a 1920s armature tester, also known as a growler. You will see why it is called that at the end of this video. Now, I have had one of the most difficult times so far ever in any of the tools I've restored in finding any information and documentation on this. I have found a patent under this company name that is unrelated to this. I have found images of this company and its mailing address. I found some advertisements about this company, but nothing about this specific tool. And I don't really know what the problem is. Usually I'm very good at finding these things. It may just be lost to time, but I'm sure somebody somewhere has a catalog where this was offered. I don't know, but if anybody out there has any information, please let me know. I'd be very excited to see that. Now, taking this apart, it's fairly simple. It's basically like an electromagnet in here, like half a transformer, and it looks like the wiring is just an absolute nightmare. Either it's been touched or it was originally like this. There's some modern electrical tape which makes me believe at least it was touched at some point in the last 30, 40 years. I don't really know. But we're going to take it apart anyways. Try not to lose track of all this insanely disorganized wiring, and hopefully piece it back together and not die, which is always a fantastic risk. Now keep seeing the letter E all over the castings of this tool. No idea. That's probably foundry markings, but who knows. Now, I just destroyed a luckily already broken part, but I further destroyed it, so remaking that's probably going to be a little difficult. Great job, Eric. You're a genius. And this switch is really cool, and it also has that awesome, very switchy switchness that I like. That is just exquisite. I'm going to take this apart because I do want to kind of restore the switch, the actual metal switch there. So if I can get this apart and see how it works, then I can make the touch and make it nice. I'm replacing all the wiring because it may have asbestos in it, and that drives me nuts. This tool is very asbestosy, unfortunately. And you can kind of hear me off camera. Maybe if I'm breathing, I'm wearing a mask because I do not like the lung cancer. So I'll desolder these and just solder on new wires when appropriate. Now this thing has a light bulb on it, and I thought maybe it was a fuse. I don't really know, but the socket is light bulbian in nature. Therefore, I'll just stick a light bulb in it and see what happens. Now I'm going to attempt something I've never done before, which is rewire, or I guess rewind an electrical component. I don't usually do this. It doesn't really need to be done in most cases, but I want to give it a try, and this is a simple enough project that I can probably succeed at this. Now I'm taking this apart, and I'm thinking the coating around this wire, this white coating, is like a fabric of some kind. It's very soft. I think it's silk, which is incredibly cool. But what I'm really doing here is counting the turns as I completely unwind this part. And I got to like around 600, I think, uh, of turns. So it's definitely heavily turned. And I'm getting the wire size because I'm going to buy new insulative wire. And I'm taking off all these massive chunks of probably asbestos. Who knows? And we can see that there is a bunch of rust deep in that part. So I'm glad we took this apart anyways. I couldn't really do this without taking it apart, unfortunately, unless I very effectively dried and cleaned all the evaporust away from the transformer thing. So after reading the patent of something similar, I'm fairly sure the gaps in this cast part here were filled with asbestos because the casting had to be cast around these. And there's really no other material that could survive such high temperatures of molten iron other than asbestos. So that's great, just getting asbestos-y all day. And I filled it with just some rubber gasket material. And I believe that's to prevent eddy currents from doing things we don't want them to do. So this is acting like a stacked transformer in that sense. Now I have some insulation paper, different thicknesses, and some is adhesive and some isn't. And I'm going to start piecing this back together like how I saw this when I was taking it apart. I just need to cover it enough so that the wires themselves cannot touch this casting in any way, even though the wires themselves are coated in a level of insulation. It's just good to get as much insulation as possible because over time that might degrade off the wire and cause issues. So I'm just going to try to do this properly while I can. And I thought using my lathe on super slow motion would be the best winding tool. And I'm just kind of doing this by hand. It's not the most accurate thing on earth. But as long as the tool functions and I do not trip breakers or electrocute myself in any way, that's, I guess, a success. It is very shiny and very attractive, though. Almost too attractive. Now, cutting this is horrifying in the sense that, you know, if I got the number of turns wrong, I can't just really add more turns in a nice, clean, and easy and beautiful way. Now, I'll tape this all back down nice and tight, and I have to kind of protect the wires from the actual armatures that will be placed on here because they do kind of touch the actual wire area apparently, and that's how this was designed. So I'm going to do a few layers of tape and then I'll slap on the insulation paper for even more protection. So at this point, it's maybe gonna work. I don't know. Do you know? I don't even know. It's somewhat exciting in that sense. Uh, I don't come across a lot of things that I need to rewind in any electrical way. So it's cool to learn and horrifying but exciting at the same time in the sense of, is it going to work? If not, I'll just cry. And if it does, I'll probably also just cry. It's just one of those days. Now, new switch looking very nice. I did give this a quick clear coat just to shine up its life. And I assume bring it back to how it used to look before, 100 years passed. I think there's a little crack in this part as well. It didn't seem to grow or anything, but if I was to touch it again more aggressively, I feel like I would maybe do a layer of glue on the inside. If it does ever break, I'll have to deal with that. Only because I do plan on using this in my daily restoration workshop life, so I do want it to work and last. The aluminum castings look amazing. Sandblasting and wire wheeling are fantastic. Oh, look at that switch. It's brass now, so I guess it was like a nickel-plated switch of solid brass, so it's staying brassy. We're brassifying here. We're always brassifying. If you're not brassifying, what are you even doing? I need to remove the insulation layer on the wires. I got a huge roll of this. I have like 1,000 feet of this now, so gotta do something with it later on, but you do need to scrape that off if you want to make some nice electrical connections. If you forget, you will be sad. Light bulb / possible fuse thing has been also lightly cleaned. It's porcelain, so there's not much cleaning to really do. I just kind of wiped it down with some soap. Now, in my endless research, I'm trying to find replacements for these, or if I could just make them. A viewer contacted me letting me know that these are actually common or somewhat common antique lamp parts. This would be where the wires go in and out, little grommets, I guess they're called. This is where the wires go in and out of the lamp housings for antique lamps, but the size that this company decided to use for this tool is not common and was somewhat difficult for him to find, even him being someone who restores lamps on a more frequent basis than I ever do. So it was really cool to see him kind of source that and then graciously send 2 of them over. So I didn't have to remake those, and I got the original exquisite look and design and material, which is what I'd rather prefer every single time over making something. You could maybe make it out of plastic, but it's just not the same as like new OEM original glorious parts. So very happy to have those. Now I need to make the little tiny prong tester fingers that go in use with the other wire that comes out of this machine that I believe is used for testing if there's any continuity between 2 electrical components that you happen to be poking. And what I'm making here are the handles for that, and I'll stain them deep red because I feel like it. And I'll make little metal kind of needles to go inside these, and those will be the electrical tester prongs. Now, as always, I make them extra beefy, and I'm just going to solder them on. So I drilled a hole in the back end of these, add some flux to the wire, and I'm just going to drown this in solder and attach the wires. So these are, unfortunately, in a safety standpoint, live electrical spears that are just waiting for you to touch and get electrocuted. So they're not safe at all. This is horribly designed, but this is original to the tool and the way it was. So I must do what the tool demands. Now, how did I come up with this specific design choice? I have seen older amp meters and voltage testers and other electrical testing equipment that have prong electrical tester things that look very similar to this. So I'm just kind of co-opting that design. Okay, it is time to talk about how this works. So this is an armature tester, also known as a growler. And it's called a growler because it makes a buzzing or growling sound when there is a short somewhere within this armature. Okay, so I will be using a little shim or a little hacksaw blade in some cases people use, and going around the armature. And if this magnetizes and starts vibrating, then we have a short and this armature is no good. If nothing happens when this is turned on around the entirety of the armature, then the armature at least is good in that respect. So that's what this does. It's a very simple tool, but it also has another feature of maximum danger, and that's the fact that I have these wrapped in rubber because it's so dangerous, but this is just a live 120 volt connection where you would test for continuity. So if I touch one of the commutator bars here and touch some other part or some other commutator bar, I can see if there is a direct connection in any improper way. The light bulb will light up if that's the case. I don't like this. This horrifies me in the sense that the second you turn the machine on, by that I mean just plugging it in, it is now live. If I touch this with my hand, like this and this, which is not plugged in right now, obviously, I would get violently shocked. And I really don't need that. So I'm just wrapping these like this for now as I use this machine as intended to test the growler. And then what should happen is there should be a switch in line with one of these that I switch on after I switch the main power on here. But I have to do things originally because that's what I like to do. So let's give this a test. Going to be wearing gloves because I wired this. Machine on, armature on. Makes a slight buzzing. Check everywhere. It's not magnetizing. That's just not the growling noise, that's just me moving the armature around. Okay, so this one seems totally fine. It doesn't seem to buzz anywhere. Yay. Congrats, we have a good armature. Now let me show you what happens when there is a short. Okay, I've placed a small washer over two of the commutator bars, and when I press it down, we should get some sort of vibration somewhere along the armature. I don't know exactly how this is wound, but we shall find out where these two commutator bars correspond. Oh, maybe it's inside. Let's move. Oh, there we go. Do you hear? So it doesn't happen here, it doesn't happen down here, it's just right here, these two. And now it's magnetized. So now you get how it sounds, and if I lift my finger off, it stops. And if I press it down, it starts again. And that's it. Now it's not magnetized, and it just falls off. So you see there would be a short there, now you know, and then this armature gets rewound, or in the garbage it goes. Now let's test the dangerous part. This horrifies me. I don't know what's going to exactly happen here, but I'm assuming this is enough insulation. Let's find out. Okay, the light should just turn on. Woo! There we go. Okay, so there's a connection between this commutator bar and this commutator bar. Well, there. You know, there's not a live connection here, 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 or here, or over here, or over here, or this commutator bar and this commutator bar, there's one. So you would just go through each and every one and test it if you wanted to. I'm not going to touch these together. That horrifies me greatly, but I think the light bulb kind of limits the current there. I will shut you off. Whew. And now we're fine. So all in all, this is actually legitimately useful for me in a restoration workshop. I plan on using this a lot going forward. It only works with universal motors that have brushes that work on a commutator bar. Other electrical motors don't necessarily work, at least as far as I know. I hope you all enjoyed it, and see you in the next one.